welcome to our last part of types of chemical reaction, where we will talk about double replacement reaction. Double replacement reaction. This is a reaction. This is a reaction. This is a reaction that involves exchange of ions between two compounds. Very important. Double replacement reaction is a reaction that involves exchange of ions between two compounds. Therefore, the characteristic in this type of reaction is the products. What are the products formed? They are common. In this type of reaction, the characteristic, we form a precipitate. We'll talk about a precipitate. A precipitate is a solid that is formed when two salt solutions are mixed to give an insoluble salt. We'll talk about it in salts when we reach in salts. Number two, we have a gas. A gas is produced. So, in this type of double replacement reaction. And finally, we have a liquid or water. We have water being produced. If water is being produced, that is a double replacement. This is the characteristic of this type of reaction. The products formed is a precipitate, a gas, or water. I'm going to write examples. For example, I want to form we want to see reaction between an acid and a carbonate. An acid and a carbonate. For example, calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is a solid. Calcium carbonate is a solid, also known as marble chips. When you react it with HCl aqueous, hydrochloric acid, carbonate plus an acid, salt, calcium chloride, aqueous plus carbon 4 oxide, gas plus water, liquid. So this is a carbonate reacting with an acid to form salt, carbon 4 oxide and water. The solution is calcium chloride. Calcium balance 2, chlorine balance 1. You exchange, becomes calcium chloride. So there is an evolution of a gas there. So balancing the equation, it means they have exchanged their anions so that we form carbon 4 oxide and water. Balancing, chlorine is 2, so I put a 2 here. Hydrogen becomes 2, we have a 2 there. So there is evolution of a gas. A gas is evolved. This is a carbonate and an acid. It forms salt, carbon 4 oxide, and water. That is gas is evolved. When you react two compounds, a gas is evolved. So this is a double replacement reaction. Let's go to water. Neutralization. Example, neutralization for this water. Neutralization. Before we go to neutralization, let's write ionic equation for this calcium carbonate. It is calcium carbonate or carbonate ions plus hydrogen ions from an acid will form calcium ions, go in solution, plus CO2, yes, plus water. These are an ionic equation. For that, these are ionic balancing. The equation oxygen 3. I put a 2 here so that plus 2 plus 2 plus hydrogen is 2 and that is 2. That is the ionic equation. Let's go to production of water. Production of water, e.g. neutralization. So neutralization falls here. So neutralization, for example, sodium hydroxide, aqueous, plus HCl, aqueous, it gives us sodium chloride, salt plus water, an acid plus a base plus an acid, salt plus water, salt plus water. So ionic equation, hydroxide ions from an acid reacts with hydrogen ions from an acid, aqueous, to give us water. To give us water. So this is the ionic equation and this is the chemical reaction. So base plus an acid, we say in chemical equation when we started, a base plus an acid, salt plus water. So in this case, we have water being produced. Double replacement reaction produces gas, water. Now let's go to a precipitate. This will take long. About the precipitate, we must know soluble and insoluble salts. But in this case, I'm going to give an example because you must know soluble and insoluble salts, which we are going to discuss in salts. So I'm going to give an example of an insoluble salt. For example, if you lead sulfate is an insoluble salt. So if you mix lead nitrate, if you mix lead nitrate aqueous. Now this is precipitation. A precipitation reaction is a reaction in which solids are formed from aqueous solution. So if you have lead nitrate, you add zinc sulfate, aqueous. These are aqueous solutions. They are soluble in water. Lead nitrate is soluble in water. Zinc sulfate is soluble in water. These are two aqueous solutions. When you mix them, lead ions will take the sulfate ions to form an insoluble lead sulfate. This is because all sulfates are soluble except barium sulfate, lead sulfate, and calcium sulfate, which is slightly soluble. So you must know the knowledge of salts so that you can know a soluble salt and an insoluble salt. So lead nitrate, aqueous, as dissolved in water. Zinc sulfate, aqueous, as dissolved in water. We said aqueous, water is the solvent. So lead ions are going to meet the sulfate ions in zinc sulfate. So it will take the sulfate ions to form an insoluble lead sulfate. So the insoluble lead sulfate is PbSO4, a solid. Now this is the precipitate. Precipitate. Plus an aqueous solution of zinc will take nitrate. Now it will be the zinc. It will be zinc nitrate. Aqueous. Because they are in valency 2, the equation is fully balanced. So lead nitrate is aqueous. Zinc sulfate is aqueous, dissolves in water. Lead will take the sulfate ions, zinc will take the nitrate ions. Lead will take the sulfate ions because it forms an insoluble salt. This is a solid. This is a solid. This is a solid. Because we have soluble salts and insoluble salts. So it's a precipitate. So writing an ionic equation, it will be ions that undergo change. Ions that undergo change are the ones that are included in the ionic equation. So ions that have undergone change to form a solid are lead ions and sulfate ions. Therefore, lead ions, Pb, 2 plus aqueous plus SO4 aqueous will give me Pb SO4. Pb SO4 solid. This is a precipitate. The solid. Precipitate. Solid. So, what am I trying to say? In a double replacement reaction is a reaction in which that involves exchange of ions between two compounds. So, characteristic of a double replacement, it can form a precipitate, it can form a gas, it can form water. For example, formation of a gas is when a carbonate reacts with an acid to form salts, carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide is the gas. Carbonate a base with an acid, salt plus water. There is formation of water here. This is water. From salt plus water, this is water, the ionic equation. This is the ionic. This is ionic. This is ionic. Where is ionic here? Ionic. This is the chemical equation. You can see that. So in these reactions of double replacement, we have formation of a precipitate. Here is the precipitate. For example, two aqueous solutions that mix to form a precipitate. There is formation of a gas, carbonate and an acid form salt, carbon dioxide and water, that is a gas. And there is formation of water when an acid and a base react to form salt and water. This is also known as neutralization. Neutralization reaction. Because an acid and a base react, the reaction in which an acid and a base react to form salt and water. Now, having done that, generalizing chemical equation in the world, generally now, surely we can predict chemical equations. So now, from now henceforth, we'll be solving questions. I will tackle salt, we'll do some questions of chemical equations. If you have any chemical equation, you can tag me so that any topic that you want to be tackled, because chemistry starts here, is where you start the journey of chemistry. Thank you. Let's meet in our next class again. Thank you.